They disowned their daughter from moving in with her black love, unaware of what was buried beneath his grandfather's soil. It started with a slammed door, a storm, and a father's final words. "You're no daughter of mine." She walked into the night with nothing but love and defiance, never knowing the same land they mocked him for would one day make them all kneel. But the secret waiting under that farm wasn't just gold, it was reckoning. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now let's begin. They said she was throwing her life away the night she brought Malik to dinner. The roast cooled untouched. The chandelier hummed. Her mother's smile froze first. Her father's fork stopped halfway. Emily felt heat rise along her neck, but kept her hand on Malik's sleeve. "You're not serious." Her father said this is a phase. Malik sat straighter. "Sir, I respect." "Respect?" Her mother cut in. "We raise you better than charity." The word hung like smoke. A cousin coughed. Someone whispered, "He fixes cars as if that were a crime." Emily noticed Malik's thumb circle his palm. She nudged his knee under the table. "We're okay." She wasn't. Not really. The room smelled like lemon polish and judgment. The talk turned cruel in that slow, polite way. Rich people weaponized. Background gossip hummed, scholarships, country clubs, the company's reputation. Emily tried logic, then memory. Summers on the lake. Her father teaching her to steer. The time he said, "Trust your hands." He looked away. When she said, "I love him." The room broke. A chair screeched. An aunt muttered, "Embarrassment." Her father's verdict landed, "Choose." Outside, winter air bit the lungs. Malik's breath plumed beside hers. She chose not with speeches, just with movement. She packed a small duffel, jeans, the leather journal. The photo of her as a messy-haired 10-year-old on her dad's shoulders. Her mother watched from the doorway, arms folded. "You'll regret this," she said, not crying. The street felt extra loud, tires hissing, a dog barking 2 houses down. Malik's old hatchback rattled like a tin drum. When the stair light flickered, he apologized with a shrug. "It's not much," he said. "It's ours," she answered. The place smelled like clean soap and engine oil. On the windowsill, a dying basil plant leaned towards street light. She kicked off her shoes, curled her toes into a threadbare rug, and laughed once, surprised at the sound. "They ate ramen on crates." He handed her the less chipped bowl. She watched steam lace the air, felt the ache in her chest melt a little. From the hallway, 2 teens passed, murmuring, "Cute couple like a blessing." She wrote one line before sleep, "Love is a doorway. I just walked through." Back at the big house, phones lit with the night scandal. At Malik, the radiator clicked, calm and stubborn. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled. Emily listened, hand on her journal as if the storm were answering a question she had not yet asked. "Okay." Morning light slipped through thin curtains, lines on the wall. The radiator hissed. Emily woke before the alarm and watched dust float. Malik tied his boots, shoulders hunched, hands quick. He kissed her temple. "Back late," he said. She nodded and tucked the blanket at his waist. They learned the price of love in small receipts, rent due bus passes, rice stretched with spices from the corner store. On Tuesdays, she cleaned offices at dawn, lemon in her nose, wrists aching as suited workers drifted in and watched her. A woman whispered, "She looks familiar." Then louder, "Isn't that the Warren girl?" At night they ate on the fire escape. The city sang with clanks, sirens, laughter. 2 floors down, Malik told stories about his grandparents, seeds in a coffee tin, hymns in rain. Emily traced the rail and asked about the farm. He looked away. "It's tired land," he said, "dry as old bread, but it raised me." When the call came, it was quiet. A neighbor's TV murmured. Malik stared at the floor as the nurse spoke. Emily reached for his fingers. He squeezed once, then sat still, a glass silence. 2 funerals in 3 days. The church smelled like wax and damp wood. Old friends hugged him in awkward bursts. Behind them, someone whispered, "He loved that farm." And another answered, "Mostly weeds now." After the burials, papers appeared. A box with a faded ribbon. DS. A pencil map, creases from being folded 100 times, a small X near the creek line. Malik almost smiled and then didn't. Granddad liked his little legends, he said. They drove out on a tired Sunday. The sky was pale blue, fence posts leaned, the house was smaller than she imagined, paint mostly gone, porch sagging, chimes tangled. She breathed cold dirt and something sweet, maybe apples from a stubborn tree. Inside, light puddled on dust. She opened the windows and the house exhaled. They cleaned in sections, one song per room. Emily wore his grandma's apron with tiny violets. Malik moved slow, touching walls with his palm. In the barn, they found jars of nails, a coat hook, a faded sign that read, "Please, close gate." A neighbor rolled past on a four-wheeler, lifted 2 fingers. Gossip moved quick. By noon, the clerk at the only store had heard. "City kids," someone muttered. "Give them a week." That night, they slept on a mattress and listened to coyotes. Emily wrote by flashlight, ink scratching. She listed repairs like prayers. Roof, pump, fences, savings, thin, patience, thicker than yesterday. She paused and touched her belly. The gesture startled her. She closed the book and lay in the hush as the house settled. In the morning, she followed the map to the creek, boots wet with dew. Malik walked the fence line, counting posts. She knelt where the X sat and brushed away leaves. All she found was a flat stone and a ring of rusted bottle caps. She laughed and pocketed. A cap for luck. They didn't find answers. They found work, and work, stubborn and honest, began to change them. The first hint came in the smell, metallic, faint, cutting through damp soil. Malik was fixing the old pump by the barn, wrenched slick with oil, when the ground under his boots sank slightly, a hollow sound. He frowned, hit the wrench again, and heard it twice. Emily leaned over the fence, brushing straw from her hair. "What is it?" He knelt, fingers tracing the edges of something solid beneath the dirt. A box, maybe iron, maybe hope. The lock was rusted shut. They pried it open with a screwdriver and a whisper. Inside, wrapped in waxed cloth, lay folded papers stamped with a logo. Fleming Mining Company, 1,943 leases, signatures, and a hand-drawn diagram of veins running beneath their land. Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. "Is this real?" Malik stared at the seal, his grandfather's name written in looping ink. "He knew," he said, quiet as the wind. The next days blurred, phone calls, dusty records at the county office. An old lawyer who remembered his grandfather's stubbornness. Beneath the farm stretched a vein of gold abandoned during a company dispute. The rights had never been sold. Ownership passed down quietly, faithfully. Emily couldn't sleep that night. The old walls seemed to hum like they were remembering. She thought of every sneer, every whispered pity. Malik sat by the table, lamplight washing his face gold. "We could lose everything trying to chase it," he said. She smiled. "Or we could lose nothing and still be broke." They began carefully leasing survey equipment, talking to prospectors, chasing doubt with coffee. The first test samples glimmered faintly under light, tiny flecks dancing in the pan. Malik's hand shook. "It's there," he said. The months that followed were slow, deliberate, almost holy. They registered Turner Mining Company in a borrowed office, a folding table, and a laptop between them. Malik worked dawn to dusk, sweat running down his spine, while Emily handled papers and paychecks, the smell of ink and metal forever in her nose. The local radio ran a line one morning. "A new operation revives old land in Edge County." They stood outside listening, sunlight cutting through fog. Emily pressed her hand to her stomach again, smiling at the secret forming there. By winter, drills traced the ground's heartbeat. Gold dust caught in filters, small at first, then steady. Malik bought new boots and left the price tag dangling for a week, laughing. The town that once called them reckless now called him Sir. One evening they stood at the creek. The water shone amber in the dusk. Malik lifted a nugget, palm trembling. "For them," he said, thinking of his grandparents. Emily leaned her head on his shoulder. "For us, too." The air smelled of rain and new beginnings. In the distance, thunder rolled, not warning this time, but applause. By spring, the story had reached places they never expected. News anchors smiled through polished tea. Teach. Local couple strikes gold, literally. Emily's maiden name slipped into headlines like a ghost. She thought she buried. At first she laughed. Then came the letters, the old friends checking in, the invitations to charity galas that once turned her away. And then came her parents. They arrived without calling. Black sedan rolling slow down the dirt road, windows tinted against the farm's sun. Malik saw them first through the kitchen window. The same hands that once trembled over rent, now steady around a mug. He said nothing, just nodded once toward the driveway. Emily froze mid-step. Her heartbeat felt loud enough to shake the table. The doorbell rang absurdly polite against a backdrop of tractors and cicadas. When she opened it, her mother stood on the porch in pearls, eyes red-rimmed but determined. Her father's face was grayer, his posture bent from something heavier than age. "Emily," her mother began, voice cracking on the name. "We saw the news. You disowned me," she said, soft but cutting. Her father sighed. "We were wrong about him, about everything." His eyes flicked toward Malik, who lingered in the background, wiping his hands with a rag. "You've built something incredible. We're proud of you." The words landed awkwardly between them. Too clean, too rehearsed. Emily looked past them to the car where her father's cufflinks glinted like tiny suns. "You didn't come for pride," she said. "You came because it's safe to now." Silence, then quieter. Her mother. "We miss our daughter." Emily's throat tightened, but she didn't let tears win. "You missed her when she was hungry, too. You just didn't look." They left after an hour of brittle conversation and untouched tea. Malik didn't say much. He just wrapped an arm around her shoulders that night as they sat on the porch watching stars slide across the dark. The air smelled of iron and hay. She leaned against him. "I thought I wanted them to see this," she murmured. "Now I just want peace." He kissed her hair. "Then that's what we'll keep. But forgiveness has its own timing." Months passed. The baby kicked stronger. Letters came again. Shorter, less proud, more human, her father wrote. Of selling the company, of sleepless nights, of wondering whether he'd still be welcome if he just showed up without money or apologies written out first. When Emily went into labor, rain hammered the roof like a drum. Malik drove through mud, headlights slicing darkness. The nurse smiled at the couple who couldn't stop holding hands. Hours later, a baby's cry filled the room. Emily whispered. Eli Malik nodded, tears running down his jawline unnoticed. The next morning, sunlight spilled over the crib. A knock sounded. Malik opened the door to find her parents again. Rain on their coats, no pearls, no car gleam, just them. Her father clutched a small blue blanket. Her mother's hands trembled. "May we see him?" she asked. Emily hesitated, then nodded. The old woman bent low, face softening as the baby cooed. Her father whispered, "He's perfect." No one spoke for a long time. The beeping monitors hummed like a hymn. Emily reached out, slow but sure, and took her mother's hand. For the first time in years, it felt warm. The farm breathed differently now. Rows of young oaks lined the driveway, and the porch creaked under the weight of laughter, instead of regret. 6 months had passed since that quiet hospital morning, and the air carried a softness that once felt impossible. Malik had built a small swing from the oak branch, and Emily sat there most afternoons, baby Eli in her arms, the smell of cut grass and warm soil around them. Her parents visited often, no chauffeur, no polished speeches, just two humbled people learning how to be family again. Her father spent hours helping Malik mend the fences he once called useless wood, sweat streaking his crisp white shirt. Her mother brought pies and apologies, one slice at a time. Neighbors stopped calling Malik that boy and started calling him Mr. Turner. When trucks passed, drivers waved. Sometimes gossip still floated through the store aisles about the gold, about how that girl chose right after all. But now it came laced with awe, not disdain. Emily only smiled. She didn't need their validation anymore. One evening, as sunset painted the fields bronze, she watched Malik walk back from the mine entrance, shirt streaked with dust, light catching in his hair. He waved, that same shy half smile that started it all. She whispered, "We made it." And Eli gurgled in her arms like he understood. Later, the family gathered for dinner under the wide oak. The table was mismatched old wood, new laughter. Her father raised his glass, not to wealth or land, but to the courage that built them. To love, he said quietly. And to second chances, Malik nodded. Emily looked around at the faces once fractured by pride and now bound by something stronger. As the sun dropped, cicadas filled the air. The gold beneath their feet gleamed unseen. But it didn't matter anymore. The real treasure sat above it. Their peace, their forgiveness, their future. Because in the end, it wasn't gold that made them rich. It was love, stubborn, defiant, and alive enough to turn pain into legacy. Sometimes love digs deeper than hate ever could. What they buried in shame, destiny unearthed in gold. If this story moved you, don't just scroll, share it. Someone out there needs to be reminded that real wealth isn't found in what we own, but in who stands beside us when the world turns.